Welcome to another episode of Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another great guest. He comes highly recommended by a lot of people out there, especially because he has over 25 plus years of experience helping businesses grow, especially those service-based businesses in which he's able to help them implement some growth strategies and systems, which makes things a whole lot easier for them to grow and scale. He is a tech entrepreneur and also founder of TraceFuse, and which is a AI-driven review and removal platform for Amazon sellers. He is a personal branding and influencer marketing expert. He is also the host of Marketing Growth Podcast and also contributed to Forbes and Huffington Post on many occasions. What he's also very good at is helping businesses evolve with hands-on from hands-on technicians to systemize business owners, which leads to sustainable growth, long-term solutions, strategies, and of course purpose and scalable businesses, which then leads to freedom for their business owners. So please welcome entrepreneur, digital strategist, business advisor, Mr. Shane Barker.
Thank you so much, man. That guy sounds amazing, man. That was quite the intro, man. I appreciate that. You make me sound amazing. That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And mostly because you are awesome. If you weren't awesome, then you wouldn't be as successful as you are, and people aren't recommending you. So you need to live up to that awesomeness.
I will. I will. That's the plan.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you for being here. Always enjoy speaking with people like yourself. Share with us your origin story. How did you become this expert in marketing and expert in business advisory and whatnot? And where did you come from?
Yeah, so it's funny. So I'm originally from Sacramento, California. So I started off there. I currently live in Reno, Nevada. So we moved here about 3 years ago. I've been in the digital space for 20 something years. I'm always in denial of how old I am, but 20, probably 25 plus years. So I grew up there really building my own businesses, when it comes to websites and SEO, and really was one of the first to talk about influencer marketing. I actually created the program at UCLA with a colleague of mine, Amanda. So I taught at UCLA doing influencer marketing, really just trying to figure out how to drive traffic. And we did that through a lot of UGC content or user generated content and so, yeah, that's been kind of my history. I used to own a bar in Chico, California, or yeah, in Chico. And then I've done so many different things. At a real estate company, I brought from 0 to 25 million. So I have I'm telling you about all my successes. We don't have enough time to talk about all my failures. I mean, that's really, where I've cut my teeth and learned a lot through this whole process. Now I have TraceFuse.ai, which is, as you said, it's a software that, and a service that helps, Amazon sellers remove critical reviews that violate Amazon's own rules. So I've always been really big and trying new things, really kind of helping the small guy. My goal is always to help entrepreneurs and people that, their own agencies to be able to make, not make the mistakes that I've made, right? And so my goal has always been to educate, and I've always enjoyed that just because I know how hard it is to grow a business and be successful. And, there's so many things that happen on a daily basis. You're constantly this is a terrible analogy, but I would say, you're getting punched in the face, things are happening, and you got to keep moving. So, I've had a lot of that through the years, and my goal is always, once again, is to educate, get people to answer questions. And I love these types of formats, podcast wise, because it's awesome to be interviewed, obviously, by somebody of your caliber, but also just to be able to, let your audience be able to understand some of the things that I've done that have been successful and where I've had some pitfalls and all the other things. So these are one of my favorite types of podcasts because of that, because, it's like, who doesn't want to learn from, nobody wants to pay for my expensive mistakes. I'd rather just tell you so you don't make the mistakes that I made. So I'm excited to talk today.
Awesome. As they say, like you may have the best plan until you get punched in the face when you're in the ring, and it's really how do you deal with that, and how do you get back up and face that next punch, right? Now, it sounds like you've been in the whole entrepreneur mindset from a very early age. Was there ever a doubt that entrepreneurship is the way to go? Would you have done anything else?
Yeah, so it's funny. So early on, as a young kid, I kind of fell in love with money. So I grew up in a very frugal family, like we had enough to do whatever we wanted to do. And we weren't, staying in hotels every night. We didn't have a private jet or any, crazy cars or anything, but we were surviving and we had a great family. The reason I'm telling you that is I very early on fell in love with money in the sense that, I'll give you an example. This was in Oregon. We were camping in Oregon. I remember seeing some guy. It's probably 6 or 7 years old, and I see this guy with all these cans, and he's giving the can to this guy, and I'm like, kind of look watching it like, what's this guy doing? And I'm not really understanding this at 6 or 7. And all of a sudden, the guy gives him all the cans, and then the guy says, "Here goes a few dollars. Give him some money." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What was that? Like, what just happened there?" Like, I didn't see anything happen other than money being given over, except he's giving him cans. Like, what is going on? So I asked my mom, like, "Hey, what is that?" And she's like, "Oh, he's collecting cans. You can make money." And we're at a campground, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, I'm thinking there's cans everywhere. I see trash cans with cans. Like, there's money everywhere. So in my mind, I was like, why are other people not doing this? Of course, I'm a 6-year-old kid that's about to make, $2 after 19 hours of work, but I'm like, this is awesome. So I started collecting cans, much to my mom's dismay, because she's a nurse. And so, disease and all the other stuff. But I'm digging through trash cans, grabbing cans. I finally go and I make, whatever I make, my $1.50. And I'm like, I couldn't be happier, man. I was like, man, that was free money. Like, that was awesome, right? I didn't really care about the work necessarily. It was the fact that all I had to do was go collect these things, very easy to do, and I can give me money. So I was always the kid putting his finger in like the machine, the things where they have like the newspapers and everything. I was always the kid trying to see if somebody left a nickel or a dime or a quarter or anything really at that point. So my mom always knew that I had an infatuation with money, and then probably the frosting on the cake was my mom gave me, and this was big back in the day. She gave me $100 in ones for my birthday, and I almost died. I was so happy. I was like, oh my, I counted it over and over and over. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. It was on my bed. So anyways, there's always been this money thing. Now, I will tell you from where I'm at today and, where I was at, 20, 30 years ago, it was very different. I was always money driven and this, that, and the other. Now, what I've learned over the years is that money's great and it's awesome. It's nice to have and great. You need to do that to pay bills. But I've really kind of made it so I've kind of more work-life balance. And also money not being the number one thing, right? I mean, it's easier when you make money to make money, but and to keep that money. But for me, I had a little bit of a mindset change, just of still want to make money, but I was looking at this of like, hey, how can I also enjoy life, right? Like I was kind of on this. I was working 18 to 20 hours a day, and just going hard. But the problem is, I've got a wife and I've got a son and I've got other things that need to happen. And I was very just focused on business. I was about 40 pounds heavier. We were going through it, right? Myself, because I was like, hey, I got to work harder, got to work more hours. And you really shouldn't work 18 to 20 hours a day. I can tell you that firsthand. I was terrible at delegation. I was like, hey, I can do it myself. I was a very unhealthy in the sense that, people were like, how do you answer emails at 4 a.m.? I'm like, well, because I'm up. Well, how did you answer at midnight? Well, because I'm up. It's like, there was like, people were like, are you sleeping? Are you on drugs or what's going on? I was like, no, no drugs, just, 5-hour energy and just a lot of motivation and passion. So I will tell you, any listeners that are listening, that that can end badly. You don't want to, you want to figure out how you can build a team and delegation and all those things that can make it so you can grow your business and scale, because you're not going to scale if you are the roadblock, right? I mean, if you're the person that's in the middle of the things and things aren't getting done because they have to go through you, you have to delegate and be able to trust other people. So I learned to do that the hard way by, once again, getting punched in the face and realizing, hey, I got to change this up a little bit. And so now I've got, a few companies that I run. I've got a smaller team, but they do an amazing job for me. So I've been very, very lucky, but it's all because of the experience of the things that I did right and wrong through the past few years, or last 20, 25 years, that has got me to this stage. So I'm excited.
Oh, nice. Now I hear that type of origin story a lot, where you grind, you grind, you work, 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 and then the realization is then to tell people, yeah, you probably shouldn't work so hard, or you maybe should need more of a life balance there. However, would you say that the reason why you're so successful now is because you did whatever it needed to take at the beginning stages to get there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I'm saying is, hey, obviously we want to work hard, right? You want to go out there and put your best effort forth. What I realized was there's only so many hours in the day. And the way that I did things is I did grind it out, right? I was like, hey, I can figure this out. I'll get it done. My recommendation would be this: A, delegation. Figure out how to do it, figure out who you can trust, give small projects to people. Once they do better, you can give them bigger projects. Clear communication. I have a lot of different things that I've learned over the years that have made it so now my communication is very clear. We use a lot of video and explanations that are, once again, for video can be take me 30 seconds to make a 30-second video. To write an email that long could take me an hour. So it's a lot easier to do that. We've put things in place for education. But, grinding hard is not the problem necessarily. It is figuring out the amount of time that you're working on something and that making sure that that's valuable time. And what I mean by that is just because you're working 20 hours doesn't mean that you're being productive for 20 hours, right? So that's really what it comes down to. So what I would do, my biggest thing was like, hey, say I wanted to learn, I wanted to hire somebody to do PPC. Well, there was a certain point in my life where I didn't have the money to hire anybody, so I would have to go and figure it out. So that's where I'm grinding it out. Well, now these days, I mean, you have Udemy, you have, people that you can hire, and I can hire you for $250 an hour. You can come in and say, hey, this is how you do PPC, right? These are the things I've learned over the last 10 years. Like, I'll give you another example. We literally just talked to a lady last night that is an Airbnb expert. I have a little bit of experience with Airbnb, but we hired her last night as a consultant, paid her hourly rate. And guess what? I learned 3 or 4 things last night that will help accelerate my Airbnb business that if I could have figured out on my own, I could have lost all kinds of money. It could have taken a month, 2 months, 3 months. So what I've realized is delegation, but also having mentors or going and educating yourself. When I started doing this, like I said, I'm aging myself, 20, 25 years ago, we didn't have Udemy, we didn't have Skillshare, we didn't have tons of people writing about what was going on. So I had to do it. I'm like, well, nobody else is talking about this for the most part. So I had to figure it out. But that's when my blog, shanebarker.com, started was I said, hey, nobody's educating people, right? Like, and I really feel like we should. And a lot of marketers didn't necessarily like that. Some of my colleagues, because they're like, hey, you're giving up the secret sauce. But I'm like, yeah, but why wouldn't I help people, right? If you read my blog and you understand how to do SEO and you think you can do it better than me, that's awesome. Like, go do it, go figure it out, right? But if you can't, we'll always be here to be, you can hire us. But for me, it was more of like, how can I do things better, right? And be smarter about things. In the beginning, you don't have money, guess what? You might have to work 18 to 20 hours. But once you get to a certain point, and if you're, what I educate, entrepreneurs on is, hey, take a look at your week, right? And write down all the stuff that you do from when you wake up to when you go to bed and figure out the times on, where other people can be doing those things, right? Give you an example, like accounting. I'm not great at accounting. I'm okay at it, but something that would take me 3 hours to do on a weekly basis, I can hire an accountant that would take them a half an hour. Now they can use software. So guess what? That saves me 2 or 3 hours. That might cost me, $80 to hire an accountant or whatever that is for that hourly. But look how much time I'm saving. If I'm making $250 an hour, why am I doing an $80 task?
Right.
Right. And that's really what you have to evaluate is like, great, you can do it and you can save money, but your productivity starts to deteriorate over time, right? We're not everybody's built for the 18 to 20 hour days. And I don't care who you are, or what you're doing, or how healthy you are, and all this, it deteriorates. And so your quality, the productivity starts to go down. So what we've done, or what I've done, is really build out blocks, the blocks of time. Hey, I'm going to focus on this. And I usually start with the things that I don't like first, because it's very easy to focus on the things that you enjoy, right? Because at the end of the day, and you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. Man, I'll get that done tomorrow. So what I do is I try to focus on the things, that in the beginning, not that I don't like, but things that I have to do that I myself have to do, right? Not something that I can delegate. I am now, if I can delegate it, I'm delegating it. Like, I have a full team, but now I'm looking at things going, okay, I know how to do that. I'm going to give it to this person because they can do that. Or, hey, this is taking up 10 hours of my week. I need to hire somebody to do that. And so I need to train for that. So now I built a team. So now I can, if I want to sell my business, I can, because I have people, they've all been trained up. We have processes, SOPs in place, all kinds of stuff. But if you're the only person, or if you have two people and you're not sharing and not documenting how to do things, you're not going to be able to sell your business if that's what your goal is, or be able to scale. It becomes very, very difficult.
Exactly. Now, a lot of that also has to do with the fact that people need to understand the value of their own time. Lots of
Agreed.
people are like, yeah, I could do it myself, and why don't I just save that extra $80 or whatever else I could do myself? But a lot of people are unable to quantify what it's worth. And there's also the aspect of, yeah, you may not be utilizing that time to go get business. You might be utilizing that time to relax, but that's important too. So when you work with your clients, how do you help them differentiate what they are worth and what to delegate?
Yeah. I mean, it really comes down to what is their service, right? What are you providing? And then if you break it down, if you're doing, let's say, SEO, and you say, okay, for a client, usually I'm spending 10 hours a month. Okay, great. That client's paying $2,500 divided by 10, then you're in theory worth 250 an hour, right? Assuming you're doing all the work. So then what you got to look at is that great, if I'm doing that, I can only take on 4 clients, right? Say if I'm doing it, let's say it's 10 hours a week to work on the client. So I can only work with 4 clients because I'm looking at 40 hours. Well, guess what I need to figure out? If I'm using my time and it's worth 250, well, guess what? If I go grab another client, I would like to hire somebody for $50 an hour where I'm making 200 an hour. I train them up on how to do things. So now what I can do is close more clients and push those clients over to here. And this person or this individual, this team does the work for us. And then I go and report back to them. So that's what I looked at was like, okay, in the beginning, it's you. You're going to be doing everything. You're pulling all the levers and making things happen. Then you get to a point where you're like, hey, think I'm ready to take on another customer. Well, guess what? Now you need to train somebody to be able to do the work that you do. Now, if you're worried about training somebody to give everybody your secret sauce, what you can do is you can divide it up by 2 or 3 people and give them little projects that when you piece it all together equals the full scope of what you do, right? So if you're worried about somebody stealing your ideas, the idea of it is you don't let the right hand know what the left hand's doing. They can work together, but they're doing this, and then you piece it together and make a project out of it. So the way that you look at that is by literally writing down what you do, right? And where that and what that looks like. And you'll find out through that process, there are going to be times that you're on YouTube for 2 hours and you're like, ooh, that was a kind of a waste of time. What did you really do there? Right? Now, maybe you want to be on YouTube, that's your time off, and that's how you want to spend your lunch. Awesome. Not here to tell you not to do that. Everybody has their own system. But when you realize that maybe you did take a lunch and you're on YouTube for 2 hours and you're also on Instagram for an hour and you did 2 hours of calls talking to your girlfriend, not saying don't do that. But my point is you'll start to look at the time, even though you said you worked 18 hours today, but maybe you only really worked 8. The problem was that 8 super productive? Probably not. Right. So that's what we have to look at is like, how do we evaluate whether we're going to move on to the next step and hire somebody? Well, you'll know that by saying, hey, I'm hitting my max. Now I've got to hire some people. I can bring in more people because my value is this. It's not only 250 an hour, but if I go and I close a client and that client's worth $2,500, guess what? I'm worth a lot more than 250 an hour because I bring that client in, right? And instead of spending 10 hours a week on that client, I'm only spending an hour because I have somebody else spending 9 hours, right? And so now what we're doing is I'm going, okay, now now I have a team. They're paying them $50 an hour. I'm charging the client $250 an hour or 2,500. And now I can start to profit and say, okay, this is what's making sense. But yeah, you have to spend some time. The idea of this of putting these processes together or blocking out your time, it is important to block out time for family and friends and a TV show or working out or all of that stuff. Like that is very, very important. If you don't do that stuff, the problem is you become, you're just going to be in the chair all day long and you're just going to start to go a little crazy because I've done it myself. Now I walk 10 miles a day on a daily basis. Like I have certain things that now when I'm getting my day started, I'm pumped, man. My blood's going. I've already talked to some of my team members. I'm ready to move and shake and make things happen. But that, when I first wake up, I got to kind of get out of the fog a little bit, right? And that's kind of the thing is what makes you happy? What do you enjoy doing? And if you're making money from that, how do you grow a team? That really is the goal.
Awesome. Now, when you're doing that 10-mile a day walk, I'm pretty confident that you're not just walking. So during that period of time, what are you doing to maximize that time on top of walking?
Yeah, you caught me, Fong. You caught me. You did. So yeah, I mean, really, what happens there is what I do on a daily basis is I listen to some kind of an Audible book. So I usually set it up. I usually can go about 2,000 steps in about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's kind of my thing. So it's about first walk in the morning. I'll usually go for about an hour, right? So I can usually get about 6 to 7,000 steps in. And then I usually go for a little walk after I eat. What I do during that time is I will listen to an Audible book. So I like to listen, whether it be my big thing is, obviously personal development, sales, marketing. I've gotten into some weird motorcycle gang things and some other things, which is, kind of outside of the educational thing, but I do enjoy gangs. I don't know why, but anyways, there's these weird things, maybe because I was never in a gang, so it's very intriguing for me from far away. But so I do that, but then I also do respond. I have Slack messages and stuff like that I will respond to with customers, not necessarily customers, but with my team if they have a very dire question. But what I don't do is start off my morning just jumping on the phone and getting all kinds of messages. I used to do that because I was like, oh, I've got to hurry up and respond. It's like, you can take an hour for yourself. This is what I remind my team and I have to remind myself is I'm a marketer, right? I'm not a brain surgeon. If I'm a brain surgeon and I don't respond to somebody and somebody dies, that's really bad. Last time I checked, right? Nobody has said, "Hey Shane, you didn't respond to me about this SEO or, this Amazon review and I died." That I know of, right? Obviously, if they did, they couldn't respond to me anyways. But my point being is like, so it is important, but you have to have some separation. And what happened was there was a point where I was so readily available to every single one of my clients, it made it so that I didn't have any time for the things that I really wanted to get done. So now what we do is I have, other people that it can be point of contact, but I also make sure that I tell, hey, maybe you're a client and we do weekly meetings. Hey, do me a favor, go ahead and get all your questions together. You can send them to me in an email. And guess what? When you have our meeting on whatever Fridays at 4, we'll go ahead and go over all those questions for you. And they go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Now I'm not controlling the client, but I'm giving them boundaries, right? Because before I was like, oh, here's my text message, my WhatsApp, send me a courier pigeon, like whatever you need to do, just get a hold of me anyway. And the problem is, then you're a slave to your business,
Yep.
right? And that doesn't work well if I want to go out and have a beer with my wife or go on a date night or go on a trip with the boys or go to my son's baseball game. Nobody wants to be that dad. And I was that dad. And I thought, you know what? It's just not worth that. And guess what? My business actually did better because I set up those boundaries because I wasn't going, oh my God, we got to figure this out. And I have a team that knows how to respond to people. And we did those trainings. So yeah, it's been beneficial, but yeah, it was, it's a lot to go through to be able to go, wait a second, this isn't the best way of doing things. We gotta make this better.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with being strategic, right? Kind of, okay, not only am I walking, I'm mind feeding. Not only am I walking, I'm also doing client calls or coaching calls or whatnot. Uh, Coaching my actual clients to respond in a certain way or be prepared. Because so much time is wasted because people aren't prepared. So much time is
Yeah.
wasted because you're acting on the fly and you may or may not be in the right state of mind to answer a question at
Yeah.
that time, right? So it's just so much stuff is wasted that people don't realize. But if you're
Yeah.
in the right mindset, then that is when you're acting on your optimal level or whatever to actually be more productive. Now,
Yeah.
you've worked
Agreed.
with individuals from starting up to companies that's already accomplished. What's the big difference between the two? Like, I know that at this stage where they're starting out, a lot of it has to do with them and them putting in the time and effort on growing and working. At this stage, stuff is already implemented, stuff is already rolling. What's your approach between the two, and how do you help?
Yeah. So if somebody's just starting off, really what the assessments that I do is like, where are you spending your time? Kind of like as we talked about, right? Like, are you spending your time in the right places? Because once again, spending time and just doing stuff doesn't mean it's the optimal, you're not optimizing your time, right? So that's what I tell people is like, hey, let's really look at this. Like I'll have clients who say, oh my God, I got to do social media 5 hours a day. You don't. In fact, that's a waste of time, right? Like you're not, unless you're grabbing, 10 clients a day off social media, great, then we spend time there. But what we want to look at is because it's very easy to read a blog like shaneburger.com or another blog, you got to do these 20 things to be successful. Well, that's awesome, but they're not all at the same time, right? You're not always going to be able to do that. So we go, hey, how are we going to be able to divide up our time? And a great example of that is, hey, maybe you need to hire a virtual assistant or somebody to help do, we call it like lead generation, right? Where it can be maybe outreach through LinkedIn or put a template together and they can send out emails. Now that's, you got Smart Lead and you've got all these, Instantly and all these other tools you can send out automation. But the idea of this is what happens if you got somebody else instead of you going on LinkedIn for 5 hours a day and messaging people? How do we automate that, right? How do we make it so that the only out of 100 messages that you send, the only people you really should be talking to are the two people that showed interest, right? Or the three people. But if you spend 5 hours getting these messages together and going and sending it out, I'm not saying that's a waste of time, but it can be a waste of time if you have clients because you should be looking at business development, right? Somebody else can be sending those out that can be templated, especially with AI now, you can really customize it. That's what you have to look at is like, how do I make it seem like I'm a big company? What is the most important thing for me to do? Well, for me, it's sales. I want to jump on, I want to be belly to belly. I know that I can close people, right? So I need other people to do this to get people interested. I come in, I have a conversation with them. We figure out pricing. We figure out, hey, this is going to make sense. And then I have somebody else that's going to be able to help with the work for the most part, right? I mean, I'm obviously still an intricate part of that. So that's the people that are just starting off. I want to make sure, hey, spend your time in the right areas, right? Because a lot of the times there's just so much stuff going on and they're trying to figure everything out and it becomes very daunting, but they're not focusing on the thing that makes money, right? That really is what it comes down to, right? You want to scale, you got to make some money. So all this other stuff, we figure out how do we automate it. Now, when I'm working with a client that's well established, Fortune, whatever, 1000 company, I want to make an assessment once again of what are you guys doing? What's been successful? What hasn't been successful? What would a home run look like? I have a lot of qualifying questions because what I like to do is I like to kind of flip it on their head when it comes to sales. As much as, we jump on and you're like, oh, I want to hire Shane. I flip that on its head. I go, well, it's not only you hiring me, I'm actually interviewing you as well because this is Shane 5.0. Shane 1.0 would take on any client like, oh, give me an opportunity, I'll make it happen. Now I'm a lot pickier, right? Because I want to make sure that the expectation is there. If you said, hey, my budget for per month is $3,000 and my goal is I want to make an extra $1 million. We would all love to do that. I would love to spend $3,000 and make $1 million. Like if I could do that, we probably wouldn't even be talking. So my point is expectation. So I ask very much some very not difficult, but qualifying questions to see if you're there, right? Hey, how much sales do you make on a monthly basis? Who are your biggest competitors? What makes you different than everybody else? And if they can't answer these questions, I mean, if you're a Fortune 1000 company, you should be able to, right? But then I'm looking at this and saying, okay, let's make sure the expectation is there. Let's realize, if you said, hey, I need somebody that's going to be, available 24/7, that's just not going to work for me, right? That's not how we run things, right? We run things very differently. Not very differently, but different in the sense that, hey, we're going to have, if you have something you need to talk about, we can absolutely talk. That'll be on this designated time. If they want to talk outside of that, we can do that too. But my point is you don't want to have scope creep. You don't want to start having extra 10, 15 meetings. You're the consultant. You're the person that's coming in and advising these companies. So you tell them, hey, I've done this 1,000 times. Let me tell you what will be successful, right? What are we looking at here? Or are we working with an owner that, and I used to get this a lot, is like, they would hire you, they give you the big bucks, all kinds of fun stuff, and then you go and offer suggestions. And they're like, "Yeah, I don't like that. I think we're going to stick with what we're currently doing." And it's like, well, then why did you hire me? Like, if you're gonna, right? Like, if that works so well, you wouldn't need me, right? And I'm not here to give you a hard time about it, but you have to be willing to learn, right? And I'm same thing with my business. I hire consultants that are smarter than me all day long because guess what? I want to learn. I want to know where there's a leaky boat or where I might be missing something. So I am always a student of the game. I don't care if I've been doing this 100 years. There's always somebody that knows more than me, and I'm always very open to that. Not all entrepreneurs are, or people that own businesses. So these are all things that I've learned the hard way over the years that I ask questions to go, okay, you are a good client, right? And I also do a little vibe check. We have a little conversation. You're smiling, seem like a good person. You're not beating your dog, which, don't beat dogs. Dogs are nice, or cats or any animals. I actually know that I think about it, but you get my point. The idea of it is like, do I think that we could work together? Money's important, but it's also, hey, do I think we can have some success? And will I enjoy working with you? I've dropped clients that I didn't want to work with that were giving me good amounts of money. But at the end of the day, it's like, if it becomes a hassle, I don't want a hassle. Complicated and trying to figure things out, not a problem. But if you're giving me a hard time all the time, it's just not going to work for me, right? If you're not there to be able to understand and learn and be open to, to learning new things, then, it's just not a good fit.
I really like the fact that you're still a person that brings in consultants and looks at your company and where you can grow and where you can improve, and also the fact that you don't take every client. And I think there's a lot of people out there that just goes, "Oh, you're gonna pay me? Okay, I'll take you on," not realizing that it may not be a good fit. And lots of people has that misconception that I'm good for everybody, but that's not necessarily true. Now, because you've worked with so many different businesses and owners and whatnot, are there some common things that it's pretty much the same every single time? Like you go, oh yeah, you do this, this, and this. What are the top few things that you can usually implement into a business?
So it really depends. What I usually see when I qualifying questions and I go through these things, a lot of the times what a company thinks they need is not necessarily what they need, right? They might have read it somewhere and said, "Oh, I heard this," or have, one of our competitors is doing this. A lot of the times that can be steps. They're talking about this and we need to work on this, right? We need to work on foundational stuff. So that's what I really try to evaluate is say, hey, let's take a look at the basics of what need to be done, right? You got to have a, you're not going to build a house on a bad foundation, right? So let's take a look at that. And a lot of people want to jump to the, I want the money. So I get that, but we got to kind of look at some of these things, which will tell us where you have a leaky boat, where you're not making as much money, why you're spending your time on this when you should be spending it on this. So a lot of it is just asking a lot of the same questions and just saying, hey, how is that foundation? If you have a solid foundation, great, then we can build upon that, right? So that's usually where I start with everybody. Bigger companies, it's a little harder because there's just a lot of moving pieces. If you have 500 employees, working on the foundation can take a lot. There's a lot of moving. There's legal, there's attorneys. If you're a 5-person team, you can move and pivot a lot easier, right? We can really take a look at some things, get the whole team on the phone. I'm not going to go into, Adobe and they have 100,000 employees and go, hey, let's get all 100,000 employees on here. We'll talk about what's working, right? That's just not realistic. So I do usually like to work. I've worked with some really, really large companies. I usually like the ones that are able to move and are a little more agile and a little more flexible and be able to get things done. You usually see traction happening faster there because they have that ability. But not to say that I don't like big clients. It's just you're moving bigger mountains with them.
Something else that you're good at is personal branding and also influencer marketing and all that kind of stuff. What's more what's more important, the branding aspect or the marketing aspect? And should people work on both of them at the same time?
Yeah, great question. So I will tell you the upside to the branding that I've done. The upside is that I'm not world famous or anything, but I used to speak internationally. I've gotten a lot of things. The way that I got that job at UCLA was because of my personal branding, because UCLA, I didn't apply for the job. They reached out to me. So the reason I'm telling you that, if it wasn't for my personal branding and me talking about what I was doing, UCLA wouldn't know what I was doing, right? So my personal brand has been very big for me in the sense that, I put my stuff on my face and my companies, and it's not an ego thing, but for me, I built some good credibility. And so now, like when I started TraceFuse, I put my name on the company and people could go look me up because we're dealing with reviews and reputation management. There's can be some shady companies out there and it can be a little bit of a shady industry at times. So I thought, well, if I put my face on it, people can go look me up and they'll know that I'm not, that I'm not going to screw them over because I have a long history of not screwing people over, right? So that's what I did. And so the personal branding really helped that in that situation. Now, I'll tell you the other side of it. If I go and I build out this big old company on ShaneBarker.com, are you going to want to buy ShaneBarker.com? Are you Shane Barker?
Correct.
Not last time I checked, right? So what happened was I got to a situation. I'm building up this Shane Barker company. This is awesome. I'm the face. I'm this. And then I'm like, wait a second, who's going to take over my podcast as me? Right? Like that doesn't. So now AI is probably getting closer. They're going to probably clone humans already. But my point of that, but I didn't, that wasn't back then. Right. So I'm going, well, wait a second. Everybody, if people come to a show, can you imagine going to a show and seeing Britney Spears or something? She might be a bad example. And then all of a sudden it's Britney Spears' sister that's performing. You're like, no, 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 no. I want Britney Spears, right? That's why I came to the show. So what happened with me is everybody wants to see, and I'm not comparing myself to Britney Spears being that famous, but my point is people want to see me. They want to see Shane that we just heard on the podcast. They want to see this, which is awesome. But if I sell the business to you, we don't necessarily look like twins, right? Last time I checked, right? So my point is guess what? That's going to be a little bit of a problem. And so I realized building this personal brand, it's been great for so many things. But if you want to sell that business and you're the face of the company, it becomes a little more difficult, right? Obviously, with AI, you can clone voices and you can do all kinds of stuff. But that was the hard part for me. And so I built this brand, spent all kinds of money, got a great brand. But it's the good part is if I vouch for a company now, like when we're doing influencer marketing, if I vouch for a company, the people that follow me know that I vetted it, right? Because they know my history. It's not anybody gives me $1, I'm going to go, talk about that company or whatever. And I know how to put those programs together. I mean, like LinkedIn, I got 35,000 followers on LinkedIn. The reason I'm saying that, not to brag, but it's like people trust me, so they follow me because I want to give them good information. I want to give you free information. And if you can go knock it out of the park, I hope that you can do that, right? Like on TraceFuse, we have so much TraceFuse.ai. We have tons of tools that are free tools that are the tools that we use internally. I give them away for free so that people can go and try to do it on their own. If they can do it, of course, that takes money out of my pocket. But at the end of the day, some of these people don't have the money to pay for my services. Does that mean they don't deserve it? I don't agree with that. I agree that guess what? You should. Now, I can't go and help you for 10 hours a week if you don't have any money. Like, I can only volunteer so much, but I can give you some free tools and offer some videos and some helpful hints on how to be successful. I feel like I owe that to the community because I've learned so much and I want to be able to educate people. Once again, that's the reason why I like these types of podcasts because hopefully somebody hears this and goes, oh, I'm messing up there. I don't want to do that anymore. That saves me 5 hours a week or something, right? That's kind of the goal.
Awesome. No, and the thing is, when you people just can't have everything. Nothing falls on their lap, right? Like you can't if you can't afford the actual one-on-one consultation, then you have to put in the time to learn it. You have to put in the time to work with it and figure it out on your own. And then when things change, you can grow with it. And then maybe your finances are different, then you can hire that next person to help you out, kind of thing. And lots of people are just like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I can't afford this, and then they get stuck and they don't do anything at all. Maybe that's a sign that entrepreneurship is not for you.
Could be, could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to influencer marketing, how is that different than pure marketing? And can anybody become an influencer?
Yeah, good question. So I'll kind of tell you how I got into the influencer space, and I'll get your questions answered. So I had a client of mine, her name is Zoe Rodriguez. She reached out to me through my website, shanebarker.com, and she's like, "Hey, I'm interested in some." Once again, I think she said she needed SEO, and I didn't know what she did, and so she filled out a form and came to the website, and I looked at her and I sent her some qualifying questions. Said, "Oh, how much money are you making?" And she was a fitness influencer, and she was on Instagram, still is actually. I mean, this was probably 10 plus years ago. I mean, this was a long time ago, right? When influencer marketing, it wasn't even called influencer marketing. It was just I'm using Instagram as a tool. And she told me, she's like, yeah, I'm making like $43,000 a month. And I was like, wait, what? What are you selling? She goes, I'm selling $20 ebooks. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Like you're selling a $20 ebook, which the information was in the ebook. You could have found it on Pinterest. You could find it anywhere. It wasn't anything a crazy unique way of working out that you could have 10 times the results. It's like, oh, push-ups and sit-ups. But she built a great community. It was very motivational. They had a Facebook group. And I'm like, and this is crazy. You're doing $43,000 in sales. It blew me away. I honestly thought like it was like a Russian credit card fraud ring or something. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this because it just seems too good to be true. And she started showing me the numbers and she was actually embarrassed about her numbers. She was like, I think I could do better. I'm like, you're a one person team making $43,000 a month and you're embarrassed? I'm like, man, I'm embarrassed. I'm not making that kind of money. Anyways, that's how we jumped into influencer marketing. That's how I learned about influencer space. And the key to this thing is anybody can be an influencer, right? It's not, you don't need to be a Kim Kardashian. You don't need to have 5 million followers. I mean, you don't even need, like I said, on my LinkedIn, I have 35,000. You could have 2,000. You can have 1,000. You can still have influence over those individuals, right? And they still look up to you because they are following you. If somebody follows you, they're making the commitment that, hey, I think your content is good. So guess what? You can build that out. You can do YouTube videos. You can do LinkedIn. You can do emails. You can do website, blog posts. There's, TikTok. There's so many different ways. You just got to figure out what you want to do. What is the content you want to put out there? How are you going to monetize it? And then dedicate the time. So let's say you're going to say, hey, I'm going to spend 6 weeks or 6 months probably. I'm going to go ahead and I want to sell whatever, a fitness ebook because I've been working out for the last 10 years. Great. I want to show people how to get bigger pecs, bigger this, bigger that. Great. Then what you're going to do is you're going to start doing workout videos. You're going to start showing some of your techniques. And then guess what? You're going to come out with your ebook. That's $20. See if you can get some people to buy it and then build out the community. So that the community side of it is the big part. Once again, is your followers, right? You want to build those out. But everybody says the same thing. It's like, oh, I have to have 500,000, or oh, I have to have this, or I have to do this. The way I tell everybody is like, hey, start now. If you think you can do it, you can do it. Everybody thinks, it's like real estate. Oh, I wish I would have invested 10 years ago. Okay, you didn't. But guess what? If you don't invest today in 10 years, guess what you're going to say? Oh, I wish I would have invested 10 years ago, right? So at the end of the day, you have to start. You have to, not to say every idea you got to start. Do the research, take a look at it, see what kind of time you're going to dedicate towards it, see if you're going to be, doing this for 10 hours a week, how much money you'd be losing from your business. Not saying don't do it, but you got to put the time in. Most people are like, oh, I did it for 2 weeks and it didn't work. Well, you do anything for 2 weeks, it's probably not going to work. Like, just because you worked out for 2 weeks doesn't mean you're going to have big pecs and a six pack. I've done the research. It doesn't work that way. Trust me. So that's what we look at is like, okay, when you look at this, you got to be realistic about expectation, right? How long you think it's going to take, what kind of content, that's going to be time, and then also money, right? That you're going to have to put into that. You don't need to put in tons of money. You don't need all professional videos. I mean, we can do these things on our phones. We can do this, in our home. So you just got to figure out, hey, if you want to put some time forward, take a look at these other people, hire a mentor, go and ask somebody that's been in the fitness industry that makes $1 million. Say, hey, listen, like I'll pay you 150 an hour. I know it's not a lot of money, but let me answer. I'm gonna have 20 questions for you. It'll be nice and quick. They're if they're willing to help, $150, or maybe you just say, hey, it's a value trade. I'll promote you on my own Instagram. Like there's a ways to do it. It doesn't always have to be money driven. But once again, you got to figure out, okay, what is my plan? How do I plan on getting this to implement this? And then how do I start to execute on it and say, hey, yep, I got my plan together. Now I'm going to go ahead and push forward. But anybody can be an influencer. You don't need to have millions of followers. That's a misconception. In fact, I think it sometimes hurts you if you have that many followers because then you start selling all kinds of stuff and your audience starts to get a little jaded towards your offers, right? Because you're offering anything and everything. And oh, here goes a new phone. And hey, check out these new earphones and all this. And they go, oh, okay, you're just kind of selling anything now, right? The idea is a smaller is going to not make as much money like a micro influencer. But there could be some good things that can happen, good sponsorships that can happen there.
Great stuff, and a lot of the things that you say is so important for people to realize, because if they don't think about that first, they're on a path that's not going to be successful. The fact that yeah, you have to start now, because if you don't start now, 10 years later,
Yeah.
you still haven't started, right? You have to start somewhere. I tell a
Yeah.
lot of my clients when it comes to real estate, they go, yeah, I really want to do real estate once I'm ready. I'm like, okay, when's that? Because
Yeah.
you're if you're not ready now, when you get ready, then you have to start back at this point to be
Yeah.
ready. But
Yeah.
opportunities don't wait for you, right? So when the opportunity comes, you have to be able to jump on it because you have some sort of knowledge on it. So you just have to start. Now, one thing you kind of touched on is technology and AI. How has that changed what you do, and how do people maximize on this stage of AI in their business?
Yeah, so AI is interesting just because every day it feels like, there's new things that are coming through. AI is going to be no different than anything else that has come through in the past, right? And what I mean by that is, it becomes nobody likes change for the most part, right? So it's like everybody's nervous. Oh, this is going to replace this, replace that. I, AI is no different than if you have, a website, right? You create a website, or if you're using social media, or you're using software to optimize or make things better. AI is a tool, right? AI is only right now as good as the prompts you put in and the information you put into those tools. It's the same thing if if I do SEMrush or if I'm doing SEO. The information that I look in there, I mean, obviously you need to figure out what you're going to put into there and what you're going to try to pull out and then how you're going to implement those ideas. AI is like, hey, I want to be able to do this. I want to get my feet wet with AI. So maybe I'll give them some very easy prompts to learn how to use it, some very basic stuff. Maybe it's social media content. You go and you take a look at it, you continue to get better and better until you got prompts down, and now you can start sending out AI and using that. But what you don't want to do with AI is just try to soak everything in because every day it's cloud, it's this, it's AI, chat GPT, it's this, oh, new updates, Gemini, nano banana, and you're like, oh my God, I like what's a nano banana? Is that fruit salad? Like you're trying to take everything in, and then you're gonna just have paralysis, right, at the end of the day. So, what I would do is go in and start using it. No different than you went in and started using X, or you started using Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. You didn't jump on and you didn't have 1 million followers and you were just all of a sudden a pro. You had to learn it, right? And it's the same thing with AI. So go in there, don't go fire 30 of your employees and get an AI agent and pray that everything goes well, right? Like it's baby steps, right? You want to be able to go in, start with little things, test it a little bit. But AI right now is only as good as the information that you put into it, right? Eventually, I think it'll start to, be more intelligent. But right now, it is what it is. Just go in and try it. Just kind of get your feet wet. You don't need to go. And once you get really, really good at it, great. Maybe you can, the idea for me is not necessarily to let my team go or fire people, but how can we produce more without more time being spent, right? Or Great. AI made it so well, we can all take Fridays off, right? Like the idea of this for me isn't to like get rid of people. It's to say, hey, let's look at your job. Like my team, I highly recommend they use AI in everything. Not everything, but a good percentage of it. It's like some people will go, oh, I use AI, but I can't tell my boss. And I'm like, but why though? Oh, because then they're going to want me to do all these other things. And it's like, for me, I tell my team, if you can be more efficient, that is the goal. That is always the goal, right? How can we use AI not to replace you, but to make it so that either A, you can do more work, or we can incentivize and we can take a day off, or we can do a team outing and we know that we got our little agents working in the background. The idea is just start somewhere, learn a little bit, kind of get your feet wet. It's things are going to change on a daily basis, but at least you have a foundation of how it started, and then it's going to kind of grow and grow, and then you'll be at a point where you can start implementing it more to scale your business. If you don't have a lot of money, then great, that's a great way to do it. There's a number of different things, but don't let it scare you, I guess is really what it comes down to.
Now, when you're using AI for marketing and branding, and you're also using social media for all that kind of stuff, what is your line when it comes to authenticity? As to what
Mm.
you put out there is, you know, uh, relatable to who that person is personally.
Yeah. So my recommendation with anything is that you got to read everything that AI puts out. It doesn't, it's not a perfect machine, right? It doesn't, and once again, it's only as good as the information that you feed to it or how well it knows you as a person, right? So what I mean by that is if you're feeding it tons of content, it starts to kind of understand your voice. That doesn't mean you just blindly put stuff up, right? I wouldn't do that with anybody, even my own team. Well, my team now, there's some people that I don't even have to review their content because they've been with me for so long and they've been trained and they're amazing people. But with AI, I wouldn't put anything out there that I didn't read and didn't resonate with me, right? That was unauthentic. Now, if somebody asked me, "Hey, did you write that?" and I didn't, I would tell them I didn't write that, but I absolutely reviewed it, and it definitely resonates with everything that I would have wrote. Except this would have taken me a half an hour, and I used AI, and it took me 1 minute, and I went in and edited it for 3 minutes, and guess what? I just saved 26 minutes. So I don't think there's anything embarrassing about it. What you got to be careful of is just randomly putting it out there and not double checking anything, right? That doesn't make sense. AI isn't at a point where you can blindly just put stuff up there. You don't want it to ever hurt your brand or say wrong things. We've heard of like attorneys using AI and going into court and the judge going, "That's not even a case," and they're going, "Oops, sorry about that." Well, you don't tell a judge, "Oops, sorry about that." You're going to get in trouble for that. So that's what you got to look at is like, how serious is your job? What are you doing? And should you validate the information when you should, right? I mean, you definitely have to look at that. Don't get lazy there.
Something you mentioned at the very beginning is that it's going to take you hours to talk about all the failures you went through and all the life lessons. So, if you don't mind sharing like one of the top lessons learned, biggest failures that you've had, what would that be?
Yeah. So it's funny, man. When I talk about failures, I look at failures as a very different than most people. Like most people are like, "Oh, I failed." And failure is always has a negative connotation of like, "Oh, I failed." The way I look at if you didn't learn anything from that experience and you absolutely failed, right? Everything is a learning lesson. And that's where you got to look at it. It's very difficult if you're in the middle of it. If you just lost your job and you've got a family, you got a mortgage and everything, it's very difficult to sit down and go, "Hey, what are the positives of this?" You're like, "Oh my God, I got mortgage due in 2 weeks." Like there's nothing positive about this. The idea of this is everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that, where we might not always know why that is, but that's okay. Over time, you will learn what that is. Things have happened to me where I'm like, "Man, this is terrible. And then guess what? Another door opened up," which sounds very cliche, but it happens. It happens to me quite often where I'm like, man, that kind of shut down. But ooh, wait a second, this is a little opportunity that I wouldn't have had the time or the resources if this wouldn't have had something hadn't happened there. So I will tell you. So some of my biggest failures. I mean, I used to own. This is some of my kind of funny ones. I used to buy domain names. I used to buy hundreds of domain names, and my big goal was to either develop them, which if you have 300 domain names, you're not going to develop them all, right? My wife finally came to me, she goes, "You going to develop those 300 domains?" And I was like, oh yeah, I totally will. No, every month, no, no. And 300 domains isn't crazy until you're paying, 10, $15 a year, it's $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, and for what? So I wanted to sell domains. I didn't necessarily, I ended up getting rid of a lot of them, which was, I went to like a domain counselor, not really, but it kind of felt like it. Got rid of my domains and I did sell some, so I made a little bit of money, but that was kind of something that it was like, yeah, not that big. I mean, I've had big companies. I had a company that I actually got sued by the Attorney General of California for $65 million.
Woo.
Yeah, so that was a lesson, and that was not necessarily, well, not because we did anything wrong. They thought that there was something wrong that happened, and so that was a huge learning lesson. And I went through that for about 2 years. We ended up winning, won the case and everything, but it was a very expensive learning lesson. I won't tell you the numbers, but it's seven digits that I had to spend to be able to fight that case and say, hey, listen, the things that you guys are saying are not true, and so I had to fight for my not only for my brand, but for my family and for myself. So that wasn't necessarily a mistake. There really wasn't. I mean, I learned a lot through that, but I didn't do anything that warranted what came across, right? Like I knew that I was like, hey, listen, I know that I'm in the clear on this, but the problem is you have to prove it, right? I mean, it's not a like, oh, hey, I pinky swear promise I didn't do anything wrong. I'm gonna, no, I need to see some results and see something that. And so that was something that I learned a lot. I mean, that whole process of going through that whole thing, you couldn't learn that at Harvard University or Yale or any university because you're looking in a textbook on what happened to somebody. I actually went through that. So that made me realize, hey, I had a 130 person team at that point. I don't want a 130 person team. I realized that there was salespeople that might have been saying the wrong things, but that comes back on me,
Yep.
right? You can be a salesperson, you can say something crazy, you get your commission, and then you leave, and then guess what? It's stuck on me because I own the company. So I learned a lot through that whole process of saying, bigger is not always better. Another lesson that was, I think, very, very valuable is bigger is not always better. And so that was with this company. We had whatever in 2 years, we grew it to, well, about a $25 million valuation, and I had 130 employees in 3 offices. But I can tell you, when I had my one office in Sacramento, when we opened our Bay Area offices, I just had more headache. I didn't have more money, right? So you always, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I got to go bigger. If I'm going here, I got to go here. I'm going to go here, I got to go here. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I actually brought in the same amount of money, but brought on twice as much stress because of that, right? And some of my teams were not out of control, but it's like I can't be in every office, right? So what I realized was bigger is not always better. Like right now, I have about a 10-person team, and I have two companies. So I don't have a crazy, no, everybody has been trained up. They're amazing. Just, I've got amazing people. And that's because we had to, get through some of the other people to get this amazing team. But, the process of doing stuff and what happens, you got to kind of sit back and go, okay, what can I learn from this? And the learning lessons are very, very, some of them are very expensive. Like my one when I had to fight the Attorney General.
Yep.
And winning was obviously big for us. But what I learned through that whole process and legal documentation and all the stuff, I mean, it opened my eyes. I couldn't have learned that, couldn't have read that in a book. And so I'm very thankful for that experience. I mean, it sucked because it just sucked, but that experience and understanding that was very, very valuable. So I wouldn't take that back. It was just very interesting. And I feel very honored to be able to learn and be able to get through that.
Yeah, and on top of that, that experience is unique and it makes you a better consultant because you're able to share that story with your clients. It goes, hey, this might happen if you don't do this, right? So, and I'm sure you have a good long story to scare them straight.
I do. I do.
So at this point in time, what are you looking for, and what's cooking? Like, what's your big thing coming up?
Yeah, so we've been scaling TraceFuse. We have over 700 brands we work with, and we've removed over 16,000 reviews. So we're very proud of that. We're probably going to be branching. Right now, only in the Amazon space. We do US, Canada, and UK. Those are their three marketplaces. We might be breaking outside of those marketplaces into like the EU, Germany. And then I also have some other stuff up my sleeve, as I always do. But I have some other software companies that we're creating right now that some of them will be outside of the Amazon space, more, I call them micro SaaS, like smaller SaaS companies that, not crazy expensive, but you can make some good kind of mailbox money from that doesn't take a lot of maintenance and stuff. So all of it is kind of in the review space. I got some other ideas as well, but I'm kind of waiting. I don't want to go develop something and then AI will develop the same thing the next day for, 2 minutes of code or something or 2 minutes of prompting. So I'm kind of some things I know that AI won't be able to jump on, or we can use it to be able to make it better. So we've got some stuff that we're working on. I'm kind of excited. 2026 and 27 is going to be an awesome year for us.
Very, very cool. No, I know you had a lot of great input today and added lots of value to the audience. Is there any final lessons learned or a message that you would like to share that you want everybody to remember Shane for?
Yeah, I mean, I think really at the end of the day is you know you can really do anything, and I hate to be cliche with that, like really, especially with AI and all the different tools out there now. I mean, really, there's the opportunity to be successful. There's so many things that you can leverage to be able to become more educated, whether it be mentors, whether it be courses, things that you can do to be able to accelerate the learning curve, and especially with AI now and agents and all the other things that you can use there. Really, don't be scared of the future. Don't be scared of the things that are coming. Right, they're coming no matter what. Like you can put your head in some sand, doesn't mean it's not happening all around you. Kind of get your feet wet, get in there, kind of figure that out, and figure out what makes you happy. Man, that really, for me, it was always business, and then I was like, man, I'm just crushing my soul with all this work. And then, wait, how do I figure this out? So I have to enjoy life, right? We're on this planet for a set amount of time. We don't know how long that is. And at the end of the day, you got to enjoy your stay here while you're here. So for me, it's like, hey, don't crush your soul. Don't kill yourself to make millions of dollars. Make a good living, enjoy time with your family, with friends, make an impact in the world, and, kind of go from there.
Very well said. Before I let you go, I got five quick rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. You're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. What would that be?
Pizza.
Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey Shane, we love your story. Very, very inspirational. We would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon shows up at your door and goes, "Hey buddy, I got cast to play you. Let's have some fun. Let's hang out. I'm hungry though." And you go, "Hey, no worries, Kevin, come over here. I got this special dish prepared for you. What is that special dish?"
Probably my wife's prime rib. Her prime rib is pretty legendary around here. Yeah.
Ooh, sounds great. You're on a road trip, hours on end, one song to listen to on repeat. What would that be?
I hate to be cliche, but the eye of the tiger kind of gets the blood pumping a little bit. I know that's probably a lot of people say that, but it's like every time I hear that, I want a shadow box.
Awesome. And finally, give me a number from 1 to 5.
3.
One, two, three. Oh, so you got cow. So
Okay.
if you had to use cow as a metaphor for success, how is success like a cow?
Um, if I was a cow, I wouldn't let too many people milk me because once again, they would have to be able to give me some kind of a contract to be able to take my milk and be able to sell it to other people. So if I was a cow, I would make sure that I would have some kind of a contract in place before anybody milked me.
I see that. So that's how success is like count. Thank you very much for your time. It was a lot of great fun and lots of great advice that you dropped here today. So thank you very much. Any final words and what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, Fong, this was awesome, man. Thank you. I love your questions and everything. Yeah, people can reach out to me. Obviously, you can follow me on LinkedIn. It's just Shane Barker. You can find me on there. And then also, if anybody wants to reach out to me on shanebarker.com looking for consulting, it's just Shane at shanebarker.com. Very easy. Or if you're an Amazon seller and you want to better understand how we do things, we're performance driven, which means nobody pays. They don't pay anything until we remove reviews. So they can reach me at Shane at TraceFuse.ai. So once again, thanks for the time.
Thank you very much. So make sure you reach out to Shane if that fits what you're looking for, and I'm sure he can help you out. So much appreciated. Thank you. So for everybody else, today is the day to lock your peak potential. We'll see you later.